Well, so are all of your employees leaving you too? I'll tell you how to keep them. Welcome to the Superpilotish channel. My name's Graham Wilson, and I'm going to tell you how to keep your employees in my basement. How to keep them in? I got to work on that. It sounds funny. Everything is in my basement, but it's not. So I was thinking about doing a show about the shortage of aircraft mechanics today. Because, well, everybody knows there's a shortage of pilots, a shortage of skilled, higher experienced pilots, and so there's also a big shortage of mechanics out there that can work on all these airplanes. And I was like, well, I could talk about that a little bit, but I don't know if I could help out the situation all that much. So I was thinking, okay, if I was an employer here, I'm not, but if I was an employer, how would I like deal with the shortage that's just going to get worse and worse? I was looking at an article saying that in Canada, anyways, 50% of the aircraft mechanics are over 50 years old, and 25% of the aircraft mechanics are over 60 years old. So we're going to lose a quarter of our mechanics within, I don't know, about 5 years and change, maybe. So if I were an employer, I would think, oh, I better plan for that. Unless I was just one of those employers that says, like, yeah, I don't care, I'll sell the business in 2 years, and that's someone else's problem. But if you're thinking about being in business for a while, you might want to think about keeping some employees around to do some work. So I was thinking, okay, I've been an employee before and I've been a chief flight instructor. And so I've had guys working for me. I guess that would be considered kind of a middle management foreman position, if you wish, if you will. So I was thinking, okay. And when I became a chief flight instructor, so that was the first time I was ever a boss of anybody. And that took a little bit of getting used to. You had to, I don't know, kind of tone down your empathy a little bit and get a little bossier. Okay, guys, we need to do this, something like that. So, yeah, I'm gonna do some things. Like it's a bit of a, I don't know. I got along. I'd like to think. Now, I'd like to think I got along great with my the employees that worked for me. But I mean, I worked at a lot of machine shops before, 10 of them, in fact, and some are better than others. None of them are great. That's why I decided to stop being a machinist and become a pilot. And then eventually, job's a job. But let's see, if you are serious about keeping your business, because like the way it is now, everyone's going to just be stealing from everybody else, other employees. That's what's been happening with pilots. So there's like it's kind of driving all the wages up and everything like that. We'll talk about wages a little bit later too. That can help you keep them around, but not necessarily. That's not the only thing there. So I would say, here we go. We'll start our little top 5 tips to keep employees hanging around so they don't jump ship. And Gafuk, I see you down there too, and you probably know all about guys jumping ship. So here we go. Yeah, we're gonna write a few things down here. Okay. This is very common sense that nobody uses. Please and thank you. Who would have thought? Those little magic words that you were taught when you were little kids. You're taught that when you're little kids because it helps you out when you're an adult, and you want to keep your pilots from leaving to go to the competition or your mechanics leaving to go to the competition. Now, when I was working as a machinist, they forgot the little magic words, so I quit. So it's not that like you got to be like, oh, I need I need to be patted on the head to say, oh, good little employee. It's like, you don't really need that, but you just think about it. Like if you're just hanging around with your buddies and he gets you a beer, you go, yeah, thanks, man. Well, what's so hard about that? Or, but you work in a shop and you're working on this job. Okay, Graham, we need this out by Friday. I was like, okay, it's just before lunch on Friday, and I just finished it up so I can clean off the machine and start the next job if I want, or whatever, or deal with any problems that maybe double check it after lunch. And does the boss say, "Oh, great, we're going to get this out on time. Excellent"? No, he's like, "Oh, all right, when you're done that, do that next." Okay. So please and thank you would have gone a long way. And the thing is, I would say the more the shops that I worked at that I enjoyed working at the most had the most pleasant foreman there, So that's a little thing that goes a long way. Now, let's talk about the cash. Okay. There's a big I guess it would be, what would you call that? A misconception that the more you pay somebody, the happier they're going to be. Nope. The thing is, you do have to have competitive wages, though. Competitive wages. So something that's kind of like industry standard. There you go. Competitive wages. You don't have to if you pay somebody $100 an hour to go work at McDonald's, they're still gonna quit because McDonald's sucks. So, anyways, at least I don't know. I worked at Burger King. I thought it sucked. And so, anyways, yeah, it's not gonna necessarily keep them around if it's a crappy job. But you got to have competitive wages. So say it's the battle of McDonald's versus Burger King. And you could walk into one, get a job, walk into the other one, get a job. Like nowadays, anybody can get a job anywhere. So, you got to have competitive wages. So if the average restaurant wage is, I don't know, we'll say $15 an hour. Minimum wage now in Ontario is like 15 plus an hour or something like that. But say it's like $15 an hour. Yeah. So I guess we can't go below minimum wage. Okay, we'll say theoretically, everybody in the restaurant industry gets $20 an hour, but you're paying 15. You're paying minimum wage, and this everyone else is paying 20. Well, that's worth jumping ship to go to 20. But what if you were paying 19, but it was a good place to work? Yeah, probably people would be like, yeah, it's not worth it jumping for $1 an hour. So you got to have competitive wages. Okay, that's one there. And here's a little thing. Now, this is a little bit of video game theory. So here we go. So what they do in video games to keep you hooked in there is every once in a while you get like some really cool prize or something. So random bonus every once in a while. So it's got to be random though, because if it's consistently, every Christmas you get $100. Well, maybe you have a bad year at the shop or the wherever, and the next year it's $50. Well, the employee looks at that as like, oh, you guys are getting cheap on me, But if you just throw in a random bonus every once in a while, maybe you're sitting you're sitting there in Fat City, all rich and everything, and like, hey, you know what? Let's give a little bonus out to the employees. Whether it could be like, we're ordering pizza, we're having a barbecue, but you got to keep it random so that the employees don't count on it. So if it's not there, then they hate your guts. It's just kind of human nature. So if you're going to give out bonuses, give out random bonuses. And I know a place around here that he actually does that every once in a while. There's this place called Atlas Tube, and I'll be talking about that a little bit later too. But the guy that owns that is a very, very rich dude. He's got a really nice Gulfstream jet. That's how rich he is. And everyone I've worked, anyone I've ever talked to that has ever worked with the guy says he's a fantastic boss. So he doesn't lose employees at Atlas Tube. Those guys, they work there forever and they make decent money and everything for what they do. They're just like thread and pipe. There you go. Ship it out to the oil field, stick it together, stick it in the ground, thread up the pipe, grease up that pipe, and it's kind of, I don't know, but every once in a while, I mean, this he's loaded. So, I mean, one year he's just like, "Hey, everybody have a Rolex," and he bought all the employees Rolexes. So you got these guys driving, piece of crap cars, but they got a Rolex. It's like that's pretty cool. They could hit the pawn shop or do whatever they want with it. But just kind of random bonuses, that's the way to go, I think. Okay, and this kind of ties me into and I don't know if the owner actually thought of this on his own or whether maybe some kind of management consultant told him to do it. But I found this through lots of YouTube. And when I became a manager or like a boss, that I wanted to do a good job. So I was trying to look at management techniques, how to be a foreman, this and that. And of course, you got to read the mandatory How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. That's a mandatory must read if you're going to be a boss. Okay, so here we go. Talking about you got your random bonuses, but here another place where you could. Okay, it doesn't really work for the aviation industry so much. Maybe if you're producing aviation parts for engines or something like that. But I'll get to it. Okay. All right, here we go. Okay, so this kind of there's two ways of if you're doing your job. Okay, so if you're doing some kind of production job where it's repetitive, just like okay, I'm threading pipe, it goes on the truck. I'm thread the pipe, going on the truck. Constant, repetitive stuff. To motivate your employees, they've done studies where you just like, okay, guys, the more you produce, the more you're going to make. Like you get your wage, but like it will incentivize people for like if you're kind of doing like, I wouldn't say brain dead work, but like work where you don't need to think, but you got to keep on it with your hands and stuff like that. So for that, what they do at this guy's shop, I know, is that you get a production bonus. So everyone in the shop or everyone in the plant is of the same mind. It's like, come on, guys, let's go right to lunch. And like, okay, once lunch is done, we got to fire up the machines and get right on it. Produce, because our bonus is tied directly to how many pipes we can get out the door. So let's go. And it's like, why is your machine not running? Come on, we got to hit our bonus. And they're like, oh yeah, I want my bonus. So that works for that type of work. But if you're doing some sort of creative work or troubleshooting work, okay, so if you got a production type job, okay, you can give more cash for that. But if you're doing creative work, that doesn't work. If you just say like, come on, okay, I'll turn up my creative knob in my head. I'll turn the creative volume up. It doesn't work that way. Or I'll just think faster and harder. It doesn't work that way either. Or I'm gonna fly my plane 10 times faster. That won't work either. So what you got to do there if it's that type of a job, you gotta give the autonomy. Okay, running out of room here. Okay, so if it's a creative type job, you got to give more autonomy to the employee, and they'll appreciate it more. So I did that with my employees that I had working for me at the last place I worked at, and what I would do. We couldn't give them any more money because we're broke. I mean, it's aviation; you're broke all the time. So, and oh, hey, Gray OG. So it was like what I did with the employees. I figured we can't afford to lose these guys, so I got to treat them right. And so I kind of feel a little bit bad because I treated them well and with respect and lots of pleases and thank yous and stuff like that. And I ended up stealing the instructors from the other the other flight school. Sorry about that, but they would prefer to work for me rather than someone else that was kind of grumpy or regimented with less autonomy in the workplace. So I would make the schedule, and okay, guys, here we go. But if you got a party on Friday night, these guys are like, 20, 23, 22, whatever. they're going to go partying on Friday night. They're going to be all wrecked on Saturday. So it's just like, okay, no problem. You do that. Don't come into work if you're all hungover on Saturday, right? You can switch with somebody else for that shift, but we got to have some pilot there that we call the duty pilot. It was some pilot there to answer questions, basically a person in charge if I wasn't around or something like that. So it'd be, okay, we need a pilot in charge here. And I don't care who does it. You guys are all equally qualified, even though some would have been better than others, but they did meet minimum qualifications. And so I'd be like, okay, if you want to switch shifts with other people, just do it in the computer. You switch your own shifts. Don't even tell me about it. And they're like, oh, great. And then I could see, oh, it looks like they switched to shifts. And then I said, okay, no matter what. And I backed that up too with, okay, if you absolutely can't find anyone to work for you, give me a call. I'll work for you. And I only had to do that a couple times, really. They all worked it out amongst themselves. So, but you got to be willing as the boss to go in there and pick up the slack. And so that's where my fifth little thing here is, if you want to keep your employees around, you got to have competent, we'll say middle management. So, oh man, I thought I'd be able to go the whole show without using one of my paper towels here to erase the whiteboard, but I'm out of luck. Spelling mistake, can't do that. Okay, put that puppy over there. Okay, here we go. So the fifth one here, 5, is you got to have competent mid-management. And by that, I mean that the mid-management, which is like the job that I had, because I worked for a board of people that ran the organization. You want to have a manager that can do the worker's job. I've had, that's always been the best for me. If I ever worked at a machine shop where the foreman, I'd have a problem of, oh, geez, man, the controller on the CNC machine's giving me an error. I can't figure it out. And then he comes over and says, oh, yeah, you just got to clear this out and do this. And you put an extra decimal point in there. I was like, oh, okay, thanks, man. Like, those managers were fantastic, the middle management. They were competent. They could do my job better than me. And that's ideally what you want for your management. The managers, and the thing is, that gives the employee respects their boss. And you don't necessarily have to love your boss or anything like that, but they got to respect them anyways. And so being a competent middle manager is, I really appreciated that at a couple of shops. Now, the thing is, they did the best that they could based on what they were given. So I won't put it down here as 6. So it's kind of a bonus, kind of an extra 6th one, is that you can have all the competent mid-management you want, respecting the workers, saying please and thank you, and interacting with the workers as much as you want. But if it comes from the board or the ultimate owner of the company, the top of the top of the top, the person that makes, all the major decisions up at the top, if that's rotten, it's not going to work. So that's what I found at like different machine shops where it would be so I had some really competent managers, but then it's like, but the guy at the very top's not going to pay me my competitive wages. See ya. Because he's like, wants to put it all in his pocket. Well, it's his company, he can do what he wants. No bonuses, but you don't really need a bonus. And then a lot of times the big boss would come by and not give me any autonomy on doing my job. And it's like, I know what I'm doing. It's like, dude, you're an accountant, you don't know what to do here. And it's like, I got some interesting revenge on one of these guys once, because I was working on this boring mill, and I eventually quit this place. They kind of pissed me off, and I quit. There you go. So And but yeah, the owner came over, and he was an accountant, and he ended up buying this machine shop. So he saw me using a boring mill, and I'm machining, like kind of taking out some high spots in a big huge plate. It was a huge machine that I could do. I could make something the size of that wall back there. And so I'm kind of taking out the high spots of this wavy kind of metal to make it nice and flat. And as the way that the cutter went around, I wanted to shoot all the hot metal chips because it kind of peels off the steel. I wanted to shoot them on the ground so it doesn't, easy to clean up after. So you might have to kind of come around, cut it this way, come around, cut it this way. But the accountant owner of the company said, "Oh no, you're wasting time doing that." Da, 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 da. So I'm like, "Okay, Mr. Accountant, you just took away my autonomy here and pissed me off." And like, "Oh, okay, you want me?" He's like, "No, go here, cut this, cut that, cut that." And I'm like, "Okay," because I knew what would happen. He was standing next to me here, and the cutter went around. It was just showering him, showering him with all these metal chips. He was like, stop, stop, stop. Okay, okay. And he ran away. But it was like, did what you told me to there, boss. You should have left me with a little bit of autonomy, and you wouldn't burnt your nice shirt. So anyways, yeah, so that was that. So I would say, I guess you could kind of call it six almost. You got to have buy-in from the very, very, very top for things to work, to keep your employees. So, yeah, hey, Dustin. And yeah, we got I got my lagging chat over here. So there we go. So those are my little tips that I've found in my life and through research and through practice, from both the employer vantage point and the employee vantage point. This is what I think works. And if you want to keep your employees, you better treat your employees right, because they're just gonna go, and you're gonna be sitting there with your thumb up somewhere with no employees, and then you, Mr. Manager, are going to be hearing it from the owner going, "Woo!" And then you'll, well, I just gave you a solution on how to do it, right? So let's go over the solution so you can be a good middle manager here. Okay, 5 tips to keep your employees. Number 1, please and thank you. Manners. And some people, I've worked for guys that, like, I know that they'd be thinking like, well, I don't have to pat you on the head, be all nice, hold your hand, like, you don't like the way I am? Too bad. Go get another job. Okay, so I got another job. See ya. Go train someone else. Lose thousands of dollars. I don't care. Okay, but if you gotta have a little attitude adjustment there if you're going to keep your employees these days. It's a different marketplace. Okay, competitive wages. That's the second one. Like I say, it doesn't have to be over the top. It won't make the employee like the place anymore to stick around. As with another little bonus in here, when I was at getting my psychology degree, my social psychology professor was saying he did a big project with General Motors as a contractor, and they found a heavy correlation between so the biggest indicator of worker dissatisfaction is calling in sick. So if you got a worker that's calling in sick all the time, they're not happy working there. They're going to be jumping ship. So you got to nip that in the bud and say please and thank you a little more, pay them some competitive wages, and do the rest of this stuff. So, but yeah, I mean, that's the other thing too with these kind of going off the rails here, but the yeah, when the like, oh, kids these days, you can't even get them to show up at work. Why? Because it sucks. They'll show up to work if you treat them right. Anyways, okay, and then my pilots were always that generation. They showed up to, none of them ever missed a day of work. Like, so you can do it. You just gotta, treat them with a little respect, pay them competitive wages, throw in a random bonus everywhere. Now remember, it has to be random, because then they count on it, and if you take it away, then they get pissed off. So it's like you don't give a pay cut. So you don't cut your employees' pay. It pisses them off. Trust me, I know. So, anyways, okay. So production, okay, if it's a production facility, you're just pumping out the same thing all the time. You can incentivize them with like a production bonus. If you guys, the more you make, the more parts you produce, the more the more money you're going to get, and so that works there. But if there's any type of thinking or creativity involved, you incentivize them with more autonomy. Let them do it their own way, and get a little bit of confidence and skill that way. And also make sure that you got your competent mid management in the skills that they're overseeing. So that would be like when I was a chief flight instructor. I was a better instructor, or a more qualified and better instructor than all the people that worked for me. It's just the way it was. I was just doing. I mean, they were like less experienced than me, except for a few other guys. They were old and they were like, okay, they had a lot more hours than me, but they didn't want the hassle that I had. So they were good. I treated those other guys with respect and always picked their brains too. Like, hey, what did you guys do back in the 70s? Oh, we never did nothing like that. I was like, oh, well, we got to do that now so we're safer. So you got to have competent mid management, and all this goes out the window and flushes it all down the toilet. And you're going to lose all your employees if the boss, the big boss cutting the checks, doesn't care. You're done. So good luck. That's number 6 bonus. Okay, so that's hopefully I made some company out there thousands of dollars so they don't have to retrain people that left. Please and thank you is cheaper than training a new employee. So, and yeah, so for Gafook here, so torture and blackmail is out as a main tool to keep employees. Yeah, it's times have changed. Blackmail and torture, they used to work, not anymore. Sorry about that. And what else we got here? What do we got here? Okay. Yeah, so we just had just a few little comments in here today. And yep, so that's about it. Yeah, I got nothing else for you. I was still working on trying to figure out how to pin this comment or pin a comment over here. And I don't think I can do that on the cheapo version of StreamYard when I got this little guy here. Because I'm working on the freebie part, the freebie version of it. So I don't know. I kind of want to do. I got this idea for Free for All Friday, where anybody can call in and get their. We'll do like our little, like the way I interviewed David Perodin, so I can kind of split screen and fool around with the technology I got here now. But anyways, that's something for the future. Yep, that's about it. And I don't see any questions or anything like that. So I guess we'll just kind of shut her down. And yeah, there we go. So thank you. Oh, that's right. Friday. I was thinking about Free for All Friday. Why? Because today's Wednesday. I do this Monday, Wednesday, Friday at noon Eastern. There we go. And now we'll shut her down. So thanks for watching. Bye.